We've got now 9 separate inquiries into the relationship between ministers and civil servants and lobbyists and people in the private sector. The plot is very much thickening. Let's talk about all of this with John Penrose. He's a Conservative MP. He's also chair of the Conservative Policy Forum and the Prime Minister's anti-corruption champion. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Julia.
This is the thing. You're an anti-corruption champion. We were told that that Lex Greensill hadn't done anything wrong by being both in government and in the private sector. We were told that David Cameron hasn't done anything wrong, although he understands why it looks bad. But in terms of he would have done things differently, but he has not broken certainly not any laws, but not even any rules about his relationship with the Greensill capital. But a lot of people are wondering whether actually there should be rules that stop all this happening. Should there be?
Well, I guess I make 2 points. One is that actually we've got some pretty good rules in place, but some of them are getting a bit old. And so we may need to, in fact, I'm pretty sure we do need to update them, tighten them, improve them. It's due, it's time for a change.
Why
for a review.
Why is them being old? I mean, the Lobbying Act is 7 years older as well, but why does them being old mean they're not fit for purpose? What's changed?
Well, for 2 reasons. One is that if you're talking about serious organised criminals, which isn't necessarily the Greensill stuff, but they're obviously a major source of potential corruption. If you're talking about serious organised criminals, they don't stand still, and the nature of corruption and corruptors keeps on moving. These are highly organised, highly creative people, and therefore there's a bit of an arms race that goes on all the time. And if you're talking about, for example, international money laundering, we absolutely have to keep on, stay up to date and stop them from getting ahead of us. So there's that piece, which I think is really crucial. But also, you are right to say that there are some things which make sense. Just because someone has got a connection with somebody else doesn't automatically make them corrupt. We're all real people. All your listeners are real people that have thousands of friends and family and business acquaintances. The question isn't, is there a connection, and saying, ooh, look at that. It's a question of, is the connection being misused in a way which means that public money is being misspent or something like that?
And that's the difficulty, isn't it? Because there'll be many people, and we know that people say like Matt Hancock, Rishi Sunak, and they've been named as having had links with David Cameron, a lunch, some text messages, phone calls. And again, we people can read into those things what they want. But they're also both, wealthy men. And an awful lot of people in government have been in Labour governments as well, who are very wealthy people or go on to be very wealthy. But while they're in government, whether people are seconded from business, and we've seen, sometimes with great success. If we think of Kate Bingham and the vaccine task force, that private sector know how to have a watertight contract and to do the deal quickly. Well, when you see the EU and their handling of those contracts, it tells you that that's absolutely paid off. But this is it for those of us who are lay people looking at this. We have to trust that someone is overseeing, that when someone is, say, in charge of procurement, and again, there's no allegation of wrongdoing or illegality at, say, Bill Crothers, but when you've got a £40 billion a fund for procurement, and you're also working for a company that is trying to get contracts with the government, we've been talking earlier this morning that it doesn't pass the smell test, that there must be, even if someone's not doing anything wrong, you need to also in government have the appearance that you're not doing anything wrong.
Well, Julia, you're absolutely right. And the point there is about transparency. If there's nothing to fear, then there's nothing to hide. So why can't we improve our transparency over the lobbying rules to make them work better? The Lobbying Act is actually not bad. It was quite groundbreaking at the time, but it needs to be tightened up. So, for example, there's a whole slew of people who could be influential on new bits of government policy, new bits of legislation, contracts and so on, who aren't currently covered by all the bits of the transparency legislation. So if you go and meet a senior civil servant who isn't a permanent secretary, one of the top ones, or if you go and talk to a political advisor who isn't a minister, then that meeting isn't currently recorded or declared so that you and I and everybody else can see it. There's a whole series of things which we now know we probably should tighten up and which need to be done in order to make this really work the way it was originally intended it's not bad, but there's a heck of a lot more which we can do and we should do. Now we can see that there's these issues which have to be fixed.
And it's not necessarily, nearly always not, it's not sinister for people to lobby, to want to meet a special advisor, to want to talk to a health secretary or any other a cabinet minister about an issue. If you think you've got a product or a service that you think is worthwhile and you want to do that deal, there's nothing wrong with that. People trying to procure business. The question is whether people are able to get access because of who they know rather than what they know. Now, we know in every other field of human life, this does happen. Whether you run a garage and you say, "Oh, my mate runs a garage, I can I can get you a good deal," or whether you run a multi-billion-pound finance company and can provide a PPE. We know that this is how it goes on. The key thing is, as I say, not just the things being clean, but the appearance of that, but the fact that we are dealing with public money. Now, what a private company wants to do with their own money is entirely their business, as long as they're paying their taxes. But when it's your, mine, everyone's listening, hard-earned money taken out of their pocket, we need to know that the people spending it have our interests at heart, not the interests of the shareholders of a private company. How can we ever verify that?
Well, you're absolutely right. And so the crucial thing is there a level playing field so that everybody gets the same chance? And then decisions get taken on the merits about, is this the best product or service at the best price? And you were absolutely right as well, Julia, that we want to encourage lots of contacts between the outside world and Whitehall and Westminster. We want to encourage lots of conversations because actually that improves government. It means that ministers and civil servants know about new products coming on the market that do something better. And you can't have them sort of cut off from reality in some sort of Westminster bubble as some sort of disconnected priesthood. That actually would be pretty soon. You'd be inviting people onto your show to say, what on earth is Westminster on? They're completely cut off from the real world.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very difficult balance. In terms of the 7 separate inquiries, one, of course, set up by the Prime Minister with the lawyer Nigel Boardman. We've got the Treasury Select Committee. Others, no doubt, the National Audit Office and others may want to look into this because, there may be, many billions of taxpayers' money that need to be accounted for and checked that the good value for money has been made. And 22 business people in similar roles right now in government with privileged access to number 10 who are also the private sector. Do you think any changes are going to be made in the immediate future?
Well, we can't prejudge. As you said, there's 6 or 7 at least inquiries. It seems like every time we turn around, there's another one being
I'm going to start my own, I think. I just why not?
Why not? Have a go. So we shouldn't prejudge what they find, but depending on what they find, my guess is that we will conclude, and in fact, the government's already looking at ways to tighten up the Lobbying Act, as we've just been discussing. They're also looking at ways to improve government procurement, so all the buying of things like PPE and everything else. And there's a green paper just been published about how they plan to change that, and that's overdue and really good. So there are certainly things that need to happen and which are already in the works. If the inquiries find new stuff, then I'd expect that list to get longer because we will want to fix it. And the one thing that's been, I think, reassuring out of the last couple of weeks is that it hasn't been some people saying, "Ooh, this is awful," and other people saying, "No, it's all right." Everybody is worried about this. Doesn't matter if they are in Whitehall, in Westminster, in the broader population. Everybody is concerned, and that means I think it's a healthy reaction for a democracy to say nobody wants this to be true. No one wants this to be something which becomes normal, and we've got to fix it once we found out precisely the details of how far the problem goes, even though we hope it doesn't go very far.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Very much appreciate you joining us. That's John Penrose. He's the Prime Minister's anti-corruption champion. He's also chair of the Conservative Policy Forum and a Tory MP.